We're starting our unit on transformations today. Specifically, we're going to be looking at reflections. Now, a transformation, so just to kind of kick it off with general stuff here, a transformation of a geometric figure is a change in its position, size, or shape. Okay, so we're just changing the position, the size, or the shape of some figure. Now, there's going to be two images that are going on, and that's the one you start with and the one you end with after you reflect it or rotate it, whatever we do. The original figure is called the pre-image. So it's the image, like pre means before, so it's the image like before you do anything to it. After you reflect it or change its size, shape, position, the resulting figure is called the image. All right, so there's a little bit of like notation or like how you write things that we need to cover before we get to reflections. So a transformation maps a figure onto its image and is described with an arrow notation. So we know what an arrow looks like. They're going to draw it like that. They're also going to use something called prime. So for example, they might say like A prime, B prime, C prime. The little apostrophe, that means prime, and that's used to identify image points. All right, so here's kind of an example that helps you kind of see what this is all talking about. The pre-image, the figure that we start with, is this triangle ABC right here. Now, they're going to change the triangle somehow. They're going to transform it, and it kind of looks like they rotated it around, and the image is the new picture of the triangle. And they call that A prime, B prime, C prime. Okay, so of the image, that's where they put the prime on there. And again, they tell you how they read this. Notice the arrow. This is triangle ABC maps to triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. Okay, so just realize that the primes, the little apostrophes, go with the new image after it's transformed. And again, we've got those listed down here. Notice A prime is the image of A, which is red. A maps onto A prime. Okay, so that's what the arrow says out loud, maps onto. Also notice that you list corresponding points of the pre-image and the image in the same order. And most of you would do this. If you say triangle ABC, then you say A prime, B prime, C prime. Don't change the order, just add the apostrophes. All right, so that's kind of just a lot of like logistical stuff. Now let's get into the actual transformations we're going to be doing this next week. So a good way to think about transformations is by visualizing a puzzle piece. As you work a puzzle, think about how you make movements. You move the pieces around by either flipping them, you slide them, or you're turning them. So you're flipping stuff around, sliding stuff, turning stuff. These are the basic transformations, and these are going to be the three transformations that we're going to talk about. So when you flip the pieces, that's called a reflection, which is what we'll do today. Sliding something, so just taking it from here, sliding it down here, that's called a translation. And when you turn a shape, that's called a rotation. So those are the big things: reflection, translation, rotation. Now realize, before we get into reflections, all three of these transformations only change the figure's position. They do not change the figure's shape or size. Think about when you're doing a puzzle. Never do you make the puzzle piece bigger or smaller, or do you change the shape of it. You're just changing where it's located. Okay, when you do that, when you just change the position, that's called an isometry. It's kind of like a really fancy word, isometry. Okay, an isometry is when the original figure, the pre-image, and the new figure, the image, when they're congruent. Okay, so kind of an important thing to note, if the pre-image and the image are the exact same shape and size, it's called an isometry. All right, so that was kind of a lot of basic information. Like I said, today we're really just talking about reflections. And you've got some visuals here. You guys know what a reflection is. So little kid looking in the mirror, the left hand and the right hand of maybe like some batting gloves. Those are all reflections. Fun fact about me, I have been to this castle in France. I did not take that picture, no, that would be cool if I did. But these are all reflections going on here. So we're gonna do 4 examples, and it's kind of all the same thing. It says for each problem, plot the given points to make the pre-image, so the picture before we change it, then reflect the pre-image over the given line, and be sure to label the new points of the image. So let's plot these points here. So F would be -1, 3, that's F. G would be -5, 1. And then H is -3, 5. Okay, and I'm going to connect them to make a triangle. There's the pre-image. Now I need to draw the image, and they want me to reflect this triangle over the y-axis. So I'm going to highlight the line that I'm reflecting it over, which is the y-axis, and I'm going to use a different color for my reflection points. Now, you guys can probably do this with very little help. Basically, I just keep the points on the same line, the same horizontal line, and I just count how many spaces it is away from the y-axis. So like H. It's 1, 2, 3 spaces away. So I'm going to count 3 spaces to the right and put H prime right there. So I'm just reflecting it over that line. And remember that we call the image points with that little apostrophe, that little prime, to show that that's the new point. Same thing with F. It's 1 away from the y-axis. So put it 1 away from the y-axis on the other side. So that'd be F prime. For G, I keep it on the same horizontal line, and I just flip it over here, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces away. So count 5 more, and that's G prime. So they just take this triangle and they flip it and reflect it over the y-axis. That's what it would look like. All right, let's do another one. So same thing, let's plot the points to make the triangle. So 2, 4. There's C, there's D, and there is E. Okay, so draw your triangle. Point D got a little weird for me right there, but that's D, the lower one. This time we want to reflect over the x-axis, so I'm going to highlight the x-axis this time. So I want to take this triangle and flip it down here. Okay, so this time I keep the points along the same vertical line, and I just count how many spaces they are away from the x-axis. So let's do C first. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces away. So go down 4, and that'd be C prime. D is only 2 spaces away, so there's D prime. And there's E prime. So there would be my reflected image. And again, these are isometries because I didn't change the shape that I was reflecting or the size of it. It's the exact same triangle, it just looks a little bit different, it's positioned differently. All right, 2 more, pretty much the same thing, so let's plot those points. J is right there. K, let's see, is 2, 0. And L is at 4, -1. Okay, these just get a little bit weird, more weird looking. We want to reflect it over the line x equals -1. If you struggle with this, if it's an x equals, that is always going to be a vertical line. Notice that number 4, that's a y equals, that's a horizontal line. And a lot of people remember that because it's like the opposite of the axis. The x-axis is the horizontal, so an x equals line is a vertical one. But the line x equals -1 would be right here. So it goes right through J. So when you reflect your triangle across that line, here's what it's going to look like. And J is kind of weird. That's not going to go anywhere. So J and J prime are the exact same point because they're both on that reflection line. You're going to reflect K and L just like we did for the first two examples. So I keep it on the same horizontal line and I just count. So K is 1, 2, 3 away from the reflection line. So K prime would be right there. And L was 5 points away, or 5 spaces away from the reflection line, so I counted 5 further left. And that would be my reflected triangle, the reflected image. And take a step back, make sure it looks right. I mean, does it look like you just took this triangle and flipped it over there? Looks pretty good. All right, last one, 3 points. Okay, there's M. N. And P. So there's my pre-image. I want to reflect across the line y equals 2. So that's a horizontal line. Right there. So let's see, this is going to look weird because some of the points are on one side of the reflected line and some points on the other, but you still do the process the same way. So P is 1 away from this highlighted line, so I'm going to count up 1 away, and that's P prime. Stay on the same vertical line, M is 1, 2, 3 spaces away, so down here is M prime, and N prime is right there. Kind of overlapped a little bit, looks a little strange, but that would be the reflected image.